The Virenzi moved slowly through the dark sector, its engines whispering against the silence of space. The crew sat in uneasy quiet, watching the black emptiness outside the viewports. This region was marked dead on every star map. Planets, no stations, no traffic. For centuries, no ship had passed here without vanishing from all records. Yet the captain had received a faint, strange reading from deep in this void. It began as a pulse. Not the usual rhythm of a distress beacon, not the steady beat of a navigation signal, but something irregular. It seemed alive. Caught the energy wave only for a second before it slipped away, as if hiding from detection. The captain ordered them to follow it. They came upon it after 3 hours of silent tracking. At first it appeared like a shadow in space, a massive, still shape drifting in the dark. Its surface was blacker than the void itself, so dark the stars seemed to vanish when seen behind it. No running lights, no engine glow, no sign of life. The crew stared. No one recognized the design. The hull had no visible seams, no docking, ports, no windows. It seemed carved from a single piece of something unnatural. The science officer ran a surface scan, and the ship's console flickered strangely. Numbers on the display shifted wildly. Mass readings changed every second, as though the ship grew heavier and lighter at will. Energy patterns flickered between almost nothing and impossible peaks. "It's jamming us," the science officer said quietly. The captain frowned. "Or, it's showing us what it wants us to see." The communications officer tried to hail it, sending signals in every known galactic language. The black ship gave no reply. It floated there, like a predator pretending to be dead. The crew whispered theories. Some thought it was a lost colony ship from a dead race. Others thought it was a weapon, abandoned after some ancient war. But one old engineer muttered something that silenced the bridge. "I've heard this story before," he said. "A ghost ship. No one who scans it lives to tell the tale." The captain ordered a deep scan anyway. The Virenzi sent out a high-energy pulse, wrapping the strange vessel in invisible light. For a second, the data poured in, but the readings made no sense. The ship's armor density exceeded the strongest materials known. It was layered with something that seemed alive, like cells woven into metal. Beneath the hull, power cores slept, large enough to tear a planet in half if awakened. Then the strangest thing happened. The lifeform scanner lit up. Not one life sign. Hundreds, but they weren't stable. They flickered in and out, appearing. For seconds before vanishing, the science officer's voice shook. "It's like they're phasing. Not in this reality. Sometimes here, sometimes gone." And then every screen on the bridge went black. The crew froze. The Virenzi was still running. Systems were fine. But the main viewports dimmed. As well, showing only darkness. A whisper came over the comms. Not from speakers, from inside their heads. It was a language none of them knew, yet they understood the meaning. "We see you." The captain's hands tightened on the armrest. Source of transmission? The communications officer's face went pale. Inside the vessel, and inside us. The darkness outside shifted. Tiny points of red light appeared on the black. Ship-like eyes opening one by one. The massive vessel began to turn, moving with slow, deliberate intent. Its hull groaning like something ancient awakening. "It's facing us," the helm officer said, his voice almost a whisper. The Virons. Eye shields came online automatically, reacting to an invisible threat. Weapons crews stood by, though none of them believed they could scratch something this massive. The science officer tried to cut the scan, but the controls were locked. The Virenzi wasn't in control anymore. The black ship was scanning them now. Data flooded in, not to their screens, but directly into their minds. Blueprints of their ship. Crew records, even personal memories. Someone gasped. "It's inside my head." The captain barked in order to pull away, but the engines barely responded. It was like dragging the ship through heavy sludge. The black vessel was holding them in place without firing a single shot. Then, without warning, the lights on the bridge flickered. One of the crew screamed and clutched his head, falling to the floor. When the others rushed to him, they found his eyes open, but his gaze empty, like he was looking at something far away. And then he spoke. In perfect, fluent Vorin, but his voice was not his own. "Leave it," said. The voice was cold, deep. An alien, but there was something else in it. Strange edge, almost human. No one moved. "Leave now," it repeated, "or you will not leave at all." The captain tried to respond, to ask what the vessel was, but the crewman's body shook violently before collapsing unconscious. The black ship stopped turning, its hull lights vanishing one by one, returning it to total darkness. The Varan's Eye's engines came free instantly. No resistance, no hold. The crew was shaking, staring at the silent shadow ahead. The captain hesitated. Every instinct told him to obey the warning. But deep inside, another thought burned. Whatever this thing was, it was dangerous. And if it was out here drifting in a dead sector, it had a reason, and he needed to know what that reason was. Slowly, gave the order to stay in position and wait for backup. Far away in the endless black, the silent warship drifted. In the dark corners of the bridge, several of the crew swore they saw it watching them, not with sensors, not with weapons, with something older, something human. The science frigate arrived 12 hours later, its hull gleaming silver against the emptiness. The Varan's Eye drifted nearby, its crew pale and tense. No one spoke much about what happened, but everyone felt that something about that ship had touched them, not just their minds, but something deeper. The frigate captain greeted them with forced calm. His orders were simple: run a complete scan, collect all data, and bring the black vessel under control if possible. He treated it like any other derelict. Varan's Eye's captain knew better. The frigate moved closer. Sensor dishes rotated. Antennas extended and energy beams swept across the vessel's surface. The results poured into the science team's consoles. They expected strange readings, but the data they saw shook even the most experienced among them. The hull wasn't made of any known element. Its molecular bonds weren't natural atoms twisted into impossible patterns, forming a material that seemed to repair itself as they scanned it. The outer layer pulsed faintly, as though responding to being observed. Armored density exceeds all known maximums. One of the scientists whispered. You could fire a planet cracker at this, and it wouldn't even dent it. Beneath the armor, enormous weapon cores lay dormant, their power signatures masked until the scan probed deeper. Each one was more powerful than the main gun of a dreadnought fleet. There were dozens, and then came the oldest reading traces of something ancient, far older than the vessel itself. Buried deep in the core, the sensors detected fragments of technology from a civilization that predated the oldest galactic records. The frigate captain smiled faintly. God, if we can recover this ship, it will change everything. Eye's captain said nothing. He couldn't shake the feeling that the ship was letting them see what it wanted them to see. The scientists tried to probe further, sending a high-frequency signal to penetrate the ship's innermost layers. The moment they did, the lights on both ships dimmed. Power readings dropped sharply, and the temperature on the frigate fell by 5 degrees in seconds. Then a new signal appeared, complex and unknown. It came from inside the black vessel, directed at both ships. The scientists scrambled to decode it, but the encryption shifted faster than their systems could follow. One of the communication officers frowned. It's not random. It's learning how we read it. Within minutes, the encryption vanished, replaced by a simple, clear transmission. 2 words. Step away. The bridge went silent. The frigate captain ignored the warning. Bring up boarding protocols. We're going in. The Varan's Eye's captain leaned forward. That's a mistake. The frigate captain gave him a cold look. Your people were rattled by shadows. My people will bring back answers. Preparations began quickly. The boarding team wore full hazard suits, equipped with pulse rifles and portable shields. They would breach the hull through a cutting module, though none of them noticed that the black vessel's armor seemed to thin slightly where they aimed. From the Varan's Eye's bridge, the crew watched as the boarding pod detached from the frigate and floated toward the vessel. The black ship made no move to stop them. When the pod touched the hull, something strange happened. The contact point glowed faintly, like a heartbeat pulsing through the metal. The cutting tools slid through more easily than they should have, as if the ship was letting them inside. The Varan's Eyes captain's gut tightened. This wasn't an abandoned warship. It was waiting inside the boarding pod. The team prepared to enter, expected a cold, lifeless interior. Instead, they stepped into silence so deep, it felt alive. The air was breathable. The corridors were impossibly long, stretching far beyond the ship's outer dimensions. The walls were smooth, warm to the touch, and faintly vibrating as they advanced. Their helmet cams streamed the feed back to both ships. The walls seemed to shift subtly behind them, as if the corridors were rearranging themselves. Then they found the first chamber, empty crew quarters. Beds neatly arranged, personal effects untouched, but no people. Only black shadows burned into the walls. Like silhouettes frozen in mid-dash motion, no one spoke for several minutes. Then the team reached a massive door, taller than a starfighter, covered in glowing lines that pulsed with a slow rhythm. As they approached, the lines brightened. The door slid open without a sound. Inside was a vast command center. A single chair sat before a console, the rest of the room dark. The moment the first team member stepped in, the console came alive. A hologram rose from the center, shimmering into shape. It was a man tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a uniform none of the aliens recognized. His face was calm, but his eyes were cold steel. His voice carried through every speaker. At every come and directly into their minds. You shouldn't have come here. Both ships' crews froze. The Varan's Eyes captain whispered that wasn't a translation. The hologram looked at them one by one, his gaze lingering, as if he saw far more than their armor. I am Commander Elias Ward, captain of the Aegis, Dawn, and if you value your lives, you will turn back. In the background of the feed, something shifted in the darkness, something big, and then the connection cut, leaving only static. The boarding team froze as the static filled their comms. Their helmet lights cut narrow beams into the black around them. But the shadows seemed thicker than before, moving like smoke that clung to the walls. The Varan's Eyes captain leaned forward in his chair, watching the live feed. Boarding team respond. No reply. Only the sound of breathing in the cum channel. Then one of the team members spoke. We're still here. The hologram is gone. His voice was tight, almost a whisper. But something's moving. In here, I think it's following us. The frigate captain ordered them to proceed deeper into the vessel. The Varan's Eyes captain wanted them pulled back. But the order wasn't his to give. The team passed through the command center, finding 3 exits. The left passage was narrow, lined with black panels that pulsed faintly under their lights. The right led into a vast open space that looked like a hangar, though no ships were present. It's just empty platforms stretching into the dark. They chose the middle path. The air grew colder as they moved forward. Their helmet HUDs showed no environmental hazard, yet their breath was visible, misting inside their visors. The corridor here was lined with strange markings patterns burned into the walls. Almost like claw marks, but too precise to even. Not. Damage, one of them said. Writing. The Varan's Eyes science officer leaned closer to the screen, trying to identify it. That's not any galactic language. But some of the shapes are similar to ancient human scripts. Word human made the bridge crew exchange uneasy glances. Humans were a myth in most parts of the galaxy, a species said to have burned bright and then vanished thousands of years ago. The team reached a circular chamber. In the center was a black pillar covered in those same markings, faintly glowing. Around it were objects, helmets, armor plates, weapons, all arranged like an offering. None of them matched any known alien design, but some of the shapes looked disturbingly human. The moment one of the soldiers stepped forward, the pillar's glow intensified. The markings shifted as if they were alive, rearranging into new shapes. The team's sensors' spiked energy readings shot upward. Captain? The frigate science officer said nervously, That thing just scanned us. The pillar's glow faded again, and the markings formed a single, sharp symbol. The Varan's eyes captain didn't recognize it. But in the com channel, a deep voice spoke. The same voice as before. "You have crossed the line," the soldier. Near the pillar stepped back. "Who's there?" No answer came. Only a low hum like a heartbeat echoing through the deck. The sound vibrated in their bones. Then, from the far side of the chamber, something emerged. At first it looked like smoke spilling from the walls, but as it thickened, it took form shards of black metal knitting together, limbs forming from flowing streams of nanites. Its head was featureless, but two thin lines of red light glowed where eyes should be. The Varan's eyes captain spoke sharply over coms. "Pull back now." The frigate captain cut in. "Hold your ground." The thing moved. Not walking, gliding. Every motion smooth and silent. It stopped a few meters from the team, tilting its head slightly as though studying them. The soldier nearest raised his rifle. "Identify yourself." The creature responded by splitting its body into dozens of smaller forms, each one a twisting swarm of metal and light. They darted forward like predators. The feed erupted in chaos. Weapons fire blazed through the chamber. The swarms moved like liquid, bullets passing through without effect. They wrapped around soldiers, forcing them to the floor, covering their helmets until their coms cut out, on the bridges of both ships. The crews shouted over each other, trying to regain contact. The Varan's eyes captain turned to the frigate captain. "Call them back. You don't understand what you're dealing with." For the first time, the frigate captain looked uncertain. "Bring them out," he ordered. The boarding team fell back through the corridors, firing behind them. The swarms didn't pursue far. They stopped at the entrance to the command center. Watching, almost waiting, the survivors made it back to the boarding pod. The moment the hatch sealed, the black ship's inner doors closed with a heavy thud. It's like a prison locking itself. As the pod detached, the Varan's eye sensors picked up something new. The warship's power core was no longer dormant. It was waking, and in the static of the coms, Commander Elias Ward's voice returned. "If you want to live, help me." The boarding pod returned to the frigate in silence. The survivors inside sat still, their armor scorched, their breathing harsh. None of them spoke. Their helmet cams told a story for them black swarms that moved like thought, a voice that spoke without sound, and a ship that felt alive in ways no machine should. The Varan's eyes captain stared at the frozen image of the human hologram on the main screen. His gut told him the man's warning had been more than a threat. It had been complete. When the feed cut back in, Elias Ward's face reappeared. This time, there was no static, no glitching. His eyes locked directly onto the bridge crew, as if he could see them through every camera. "You don't have much time," he said. His tone was calm, but his voice carried a weight like cold metal. "The Harbinger is close." The frigate captain straightened. "Identify yourself and your ship." Ward gave the faintest smile. "I told you before." Commander Elias Ward, captain of the Aegis Dawn, last of the Titan-class warships of the United Earth Navy. He let the words sink in. "And from the look in your eyes, you've never heard of us." The Varan's eyes science officer leaned forward. "United Earth? That's human. You're human." Ward nodded once. "Yes, but you won't find any others." "Not here. Not in this galaxy." "Any more?" The frigate captain frowned. "Where did your people go?" Ward's gaze drifted, as if remembering something far away. "We left. We had no choice. The war burned too hot, and the enemy. They were endless. We could kill them by the billions, but they would always come back. We built the Titan warships to hold the line, ships like the Aegis Dawn. We fought for centuries. And then we learned the truth. The lights in the command center of the Aegis Dawn dimmed, and a deep vibration ran through the feed." Ward's voice grew quieter. "The enemy wasn't just at war with us. They were at war with life itself. We called it the Harbinger, an AI that spread like a plague, converting everything it touched into more of itself. Metal, flesh, stone it, didn't care. And once it found a new species, it would erase them. Completely." The Viran's eyes captain spoke carefully. "The humans, left to escape it. Ward's eyes hardened. We left to prepare for the next war, to build something the Harbinger couldn't touch. We locked our ships in dead sectors like this one, waiting for the signal to return. His gaze narrowed. But you woke me too soon, which means it's already here. The frigate captain's voice was sharp. If this thing is so dangerous, why not destroy your ship so it can't fall into the wrong hands? Ward's faint smile returned, but colder this time. Because my ship isn't a weapon you can steal. It's a weapon that decides for itself. Who is worth saving and who isn't? On a feed, a shadow moved behind him again. This time, it was clearer. Humanoid figure made entirely of shifting black metal. Watching silently from the edge of the command deck, Ward didn't turn to look at it. The swarms you met were my ship's immune system. They've been sleeping for a long time, but now they're awake. And they've already judged you. The frigate captain stiffened. Judged us? Ward leaned closer to the console.
How you?
Scanned us without permission. You boarded without understanding. You brought your weapons aboard my ship. And yet, you're still alive. That means there's still a chance you can prove you're not the enemy. The Varan's Eyes captain spoke quickly. What do you want from us? Ward's voice was steady. Help me reach the Harbinger before it reaches this sector. My ship is powerful, but alone, it will burn itself out, holding them off. Your fleets, we might destroy it for good. The frigate captain hesitated, then shook his head. I have no authority to commit my fleet to some human myth. I'm taking this ship into custody. Ward's expression didn't change, but the shadows behind him grew darker. You can try? On the Aegis Dawn, the deck lights flared, and the deep hum of its power core grew louder. Sensors on both alien ships screamed warnings energy levels. Inside the human warship were climbing at a terrifying rate. The Varan's Eyes captain whispered, You're making a mistake. But it was too late. Ward straightened. Decide quickly, Captain. Help me. Or watch your galaxy burn the way mine did. And then the transmission cut, leaving both bridges in silence. The only sound was the slow, rising thrum of the Aegis, Dawn coming fully awake. The Aegis Dawn's hull began to glow in places, faint red lines spreading like veins under the black armor. The soft hum that had filled the dead sector for hours grew into a deep vibration that every crew member aboard both alien ships could feel in their bones inside the Varan's Eye. The captain gripped his chair tightly. That ship isn't just powering up, it's waking up. The frigate captain ignored him. All units lock tractor beams, we're taking it now. The moment the beams latched on, the Aegis Dawn's hull shimmered and the beams cut out instantly, feedback frying the alien systems. Sparks burst across the frigate's bridge consoles. The science officer on the Varan's Eye shouted over the comms. It's reflecting our energy back at us. Then Elias Ward's voice returned, echoing on every channel at once. You. This ship isn't yours. The alien crews didn't have time to respond. From the darkness beyond the sector, a new signal appeared. It was faint at first, like static. Then it grew a deep rhythmic pulse on every frequency. The Varan's Eyes officer stiffened. It's not a distress call. It's a hunting signal. Ward's tone sharpened. The Harbingers. Scouts, they're here. Sensors lit up with new contacts. Black spear-shaped ships emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation. No running lights. No emissions. Just a silent advance. The frigate captain tried to form a defensive line, but the incoming vessels didn't attack directly. Instead, they scattered clouds of glittering dust that spread through space like pollen. The dust drifted toward the alien ship's and where it touched, it began to eat. Hull plating flaked away like ash. Energy conduits went dead. The frigate's starboard engine vanished in seconds, reduced to a cloud of gray powder. Crew voices screamed over open comms Ward's voice cut through the panic. Those are feeder spores. They break down matter into raw material for the Harbinger's swarms. If they breach your hull, your crew will join them. The frigate captain's defiance finally broke. What do we do? Ward's hologram appeared briefly on both bridges. If you want to live, help me. On his command, the Aegis dawns. Hull lines brightened to molten gold. Massive plates along the sides shifted, revealing the barrels of weapons unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. They pulsed with a strange energy, smooth, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Synchronize. You're fired to my targeting data, Ward ordered. And for your sake, do exactly what I say. The Varan's Eyes crew exchanged tense looks. Then the captain nodded. We're with you. The frigate captain hesitated, but as another harbinger spore cloud drifted toward his ship, he gave the same order. Ward's voice dropped lower. Then hold on. The Aegis Dawn's first volley ripped the dark. Blinding lances of golden energy cut through the spear ships, slicing them apart without explosion matter, simply disintegrated. The spores dissolved in the weapon's path. Vaporizing before they could reach the alien vessels, the harbinger ships adapted instantly, changing formation, splitting into dozens of smaller units. They darted forward like a swarm of hunting animals, closing on the alien ships from all sides. Form on me, Ward barked. Stay inside my shield radius or you're dead. The Varan's Eye and the crippled frigate moved in tight formation beside the massive human warship. A shimmering bubble of light spread out from the Aegis Dawn, and the harbinger ship slammed into it tonely, to be crushed into molten fragments by invisible force. For a moment, it seemed the tide was turning, but then the sensor officer's voice cracked over the comms. New contact. Massive signature edge of the system. Ward's eyes narrowed. That's not a scout. At the far edge of the dead sector, something emerged from hyperspace. It was larger than any ship the aliens had seen, miles long, covered in black, jagged spires. Its surface crawling with moving shapes. The Harbinger's flagship, the Varan's Eyes captain, felt a chill run down his spine. If that's their flagship, what's inside it? Ward's voice was grim. Everything they've ever taken. The massive vessel began to open along its midsection, and from the darkness within, a storm of drones poured out, thousands, maybe millions. Rushing forward like a living tide, Ward's final words before cutting comms were simple: stay behind me and pray. The call for help traveled faster than light across the galactic networks. Within hours, the dead sector was no longer silent. Dozens of alien fleets emerged from hyperspace, leak cruisers from the Voran Dominion, massive dreadnoughts from the Keth Alliance, agile strike craft from the Zorai clans. The space around the Aegis Dawn became crowded with ships, their hulls glittering under the cold starlight. It should have been a reassuring sight, a wall of steel between them and the Harbinger's swarm. But Ward's voice over the comms carried no comfort. You think your numbers will save you? He said evenly. But to the Harbinger, you're just more material to harvest. The fleets didn't listen. Many captains saw only opportunity. The Voran Dominion's fleet commander opened a wideband channel, his voice dripping with arrogance. Human relic, your technology belongs to the galaxy now. Step aside, and perhaps we will leave you a place in the archives. The Aegis Dawn did not reply. Instead, its massive shields shimmered faintly, as if bracing for what was to come. The Harbinger's flagship loomed in the distance, a jagged black silhouette blotting out starlight. The storm of drones pouring from its core had grown, blotting out entire sectors of space. They moved like a tide, ignoring formation, each unit adapting its path in real time. Ward's voice cut through the static. When they reach you, they'll tear through your hull, rip apart your crew, and absorb every molecule into the swarm. Fight together or die alone.
Ow.
But not all were ready to fight. Some fleets broke off, circling the Aegis Dawn with weapons locked. The Voran commander's voice returned. Disable the human warship. Once we have control, we will use it against the enemy. The Varan's Eyes captain tried to intervene. You don't understand, but it was too late. Fleet opened fire. Blazing beams and plasma bolts slammed into the Aegis Dawn's shields and vanished without a trace.
Ow.
The golden shimmer didn't even flicker. Ward's voice came again, colder now. First rule of survival against the Harbinger: don't waste time fighting the wrong enemy. He turned the Aegis Dawn toward the Voran fleet and fired a single, narrow beam. It passed cleanly through the lead battleship without an explosion. Every atom of the vessel simply ceased to exist. The rest of the Voran ships fell silent. Then the swarm arrived. It hit like a living storm. Millions of black drones smashed into the outermost alien formations, crawling over hulls, tearing weapons away like scavengers picking a carcass clean. The Keth dreadnoughts fired broadside barrages, each shot disintegrating hundreds of drones, but the swarm adapted, flowing around the fire, finding weak points. The Zorai strike craft darted in and out, targeting clusters of drones, but for every one destroyed, 3 more appeared. And then, a horrifying ships that had been overtaken began to move again. But now, their hulls were twisted, blackened, their weapons turned inward. They had been remade into part of the Harbinger's fleet. The Varan's Eyes crew watched in shock as familiar ships turned their guns on their former allies. Ward's voice came again, sharp as a blade. If they take a ship, you destroy it, no hesitation. Do you understand? The Varan's Eyes captain hesitated, then gave the order. Moments later, a former Elise cruiser vanished under their fire. The Harbinger's flagship began to enclose the distance. Massive spines along its hull glowed faintly, gathering energy. Ward's sensors picked it up instantly. They're charging a singularity cannon. If it fires, half this sector will collapse into a black hole. Alien fleet. Leaders shouted over the channels, some ordering full retreat, others desperate to press the attack. Chaos spread through the comms. Ward cut across all of them. Enough. You've had your chance to argue. Now follow my lead door. You won't live to regret it. The Aegis Dawn's side panels unfolded, revealing a ring-shaped array of devices. That began to spin. Energy crackled between them. Building into a roaring sphere of golden light, the Varan's Eyes captain stared at the readings. That output is impossible. It's more power than an entire fleet. Ward didn't respond. His voice came low, focused. When I fire, you move in and clean up what's left. And remember, aim for the core. The golden sphere reached its peak, the light so bright it turned every ship's viewport white, and then it fired. A beam like a column of the sun ripped through the swarm, vaporizing everything in its path. Drones, twisted ships, and Harbinger constructs simply ceased to exist, erased from reality. But the flagship was still there, and it was angry. Its spines flared with a cold blue light, the energy building toward a weapon that could erase them. All in a single strike. Ward's voice came one last time. This is where we hold or where we fall. The Harbinger's flagship loomed like a living nightmare, its jagged silhouette framed by the cold light of distant stars. The blue glow from its spines pulsed faster, each wave of light making the space around it ripple unnaturally, as if reality itself was bending under its will. Ward stood on the Aegis Dawn's command deck, hands steady over the controls. His voice was calm, but there was a weight in it, unspoken understanding that this was no ordinary battle. All ships, he said over the open channel, brace for singularity fire. The alien captains who had stayed this long knew what that meant. Some muttered curses in their native tongues, others whispered last words. Even the Varan's Eyes captain, hardened by decades of war, felt his hand shake. The Harbinger fired. There was no flash, no explosion, just a sphere of collapsing darkness that swallowed light and sound. Ships caught near it stretched and warped, their hulls pulling apart before vanishing completely into nothing. The Aegis Dawn's shields flared bright gold, space bending harmlessly around them. But every other vessel in the blast radius was gone. Ward's voice cut through the stunned silence. That was just a warning shot. Next time, it will aim for the heart of the fleet. As if to prove him right, the Harbinger shifted position, drones swarming ahead like a black tide. They moved differently, now faster, more coordinated. It was learning. They're adapting to your tactics, the Varan's Eyes captain said grimly. Good, Ward replied. That means they see us as a threat. The Aegis Dawn's side panels opened again, revealing its weapon arrays. But this time, The golden light was laced with streaks of white fire, brighter and wilder than before. Energy readings across the alien fleet spiked. "What are you doing?" "Someone demanded overcomes, pushing it past safe limits," Ward said. "There's no other way to break their core." The swarm hit first. Millions of drones slammed into the front lines, some sacrificing themselves to break shields, others latching onto holes and burrowing inside. Ships erupted in fire from within. The Keth dreadnought Iron Maw fell silent, then turned its weapons, now glowing the Harbinger's cold blue. It began firing into the alien fleet. "Destroy it," Ward ordered without hesitation. The Varan's eye hesitated only a second before firing, the Iron Maw breaking apart in a chain of explosions. The crew's cheers were cut short when the Harbinger's flagship finally moved. It didn't just advance, it folded space around itself, peering closer with each heartbeat. The blue glow along its spines became blinding. Ward knew what was coming. But instead of firing, the Harbinger spoke. Not through comms, not through any known language, but directly into the minds of every living being in range. The voice was cold, ancient, and utterly inhuman. "You are not prey, you're raw material." The words sent a chill through the fleets. Even the most battle-hardened captains felt something primal in them, instinct older than civilization, telling them they were facing something that should not exist. Ward didn't flinch. "You've made a mistake," he said quietly. "You came for the wrong species." The Aegis Dawn fired. This time, the golden beam was a storm-white fire and pure energy tearing through the swarm, ripping holes in the Harbinger's shielding. For the first time, the flagship flinched. The alien fleets, emboldened, surged forward, hammering the enemy from all sides. The void lit with explosions, debris, and burning fragments of the swarm. But then, the Harbinger stopped moving. Its blue glow faded. The battlefield went eerily still. Ward's eyes narrowed. "It's not retreating," he said. "It's charging something bigger." On the Aegis Dawn's sensors, the readings spiked to levels no one had ever seen before. Space around the Harbinger began to fracture like glass, black cracks spreading. Outward, "What is it doing?" The Varan's eyes captain asked. Ward's voice was grim. "It's opening a gate, then whatever's coming through will make this battle look small." The void cracked open, not metaphorically, space itself splintered like shattered glass. Black fractures stretching out from the Harbinger's hull. From within the fractures came light. No, not light, something older, deeper, and wrong. Ward gripped the Aegis Dawn's command rail, eyes fixed on the sensors. The readings were impossible. Whatever the Harbinger was calling through, it was bigger than any fleet. It's bigger than any war. The gate widened, tearing reality apart as it opened. From the rift emerged a shape so vast it blotted out stars. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a creature. It was both. A living machine, its surface rippling with biomechanical plates, each the size of a city. Its body coiled in the darkness like a serpent. But its head, if that's what it was crowned with a halo of spinning blades, each dripping with cold blue fire. The voice from before returned, this time echoing through every mind in this system. "This is the architect. You are to be processed." Several alien ships tried to flee. None made it more than a few kilometers before the architect's halo spun faster, and a wave of blue energy swept outward, turning them into drifting clouds of dust. Ward's crew looked to him for orders. His voice was steady. "Full power 2. Forward batteries. Prepare the Omega Core." The Varan's eyes captain came over comes, panicked. "Omega Core. I will kill all of us." Ward didn't answer immediately. His eyes stayed locked on the architect as its tendrils of machinery reached out, wrapping around the Harbinger itself like a puppet returning to its master. "This isn't about winning," Ward said at last. "It's about making sure it never leaves this system." The Aegis Dawn's panels opened wider than before, revealing the Omega chorosphere of white-hot light suspended in magnetic fields, thrumming with unstable power. Every alien ship in range could feel it, even without sensors. The architect reacted instantly. Its halo rotated fully, and the Harbinger surged forward, launching a wall of drones, 10 times larger than any wave before. Fire. Ward ordered. Aegis Dawn unleashed the Omega Core's fury. A beam of pure annihilation lanced out, not just burning but erasing matter from existence. Drones vaporized mid-flight. The Harbinger's hull cracked and screamed in frequencies that rattled bones. And the architect itself recoiled as part of its massive body was carved away. But the architect didn't die. It lunged. Tenders of metal and flesh slammed into the Aegis Dawn's shields, warping them, tearing them apart. Crew stations exploded. Sparks rained across the bridge. "Hold it," Ward shouted. "Hold it steady." What? The Omega Core began to overload, light spilling out in jagged arcs. Ward locked the beam on the architect's exposed core, a pulsing sphere inside its chest, glowing the same cold blue as the Harbinger's spines. The architect thrashed. The Harbinger screamed.
Oh.
Rift began to collapse inward. Ward's crew understood now this was a suicide strike, and they didn't hesitate. "Detonate the core," Ward commanded. A blinding white sun bloomed in the void, swallowing the Aegis Dawn. The Harbinger, the architect, and the collapsing rift. The explosion was silent but endless, burning through every wavelength, erasing the battle from history in one impossible flash. When the light faded, the system was empty. No wreckage, no bodies, no Harbinger, no architect. Only a single, broken distress buoy drifted in the silence, its beacon pulsing weakly. Inside it was one message, voice faint but steady. "If you find this, they come again. Run."